The 8 most mysterious and terrifying mass graves ever discovered that frightened scientists. Throughout human history, archaeological discoveries have always brought forth mysterious and surprising revelations, but not all of them are easily explained. One of the most shocking and puzzling discoveries for the scientific community has been mass graves with strange signs and inexplicable mysteries. These graves are not merely burial sites. They conceal dark stories, mysterious rituals, and unresolved events. So, what are some of the most puzzling mass graves that archaeologists have encountered over the years? Let's explore them in today's video. The mass grave of 227 sacrificed children. Killed in a brutal sacrificial ritual over 1,400 years ago, the remains of 227 children, aged 4 to 14, were recently discovered in a mass grave at Pampa La Cruz, Peru. This is considered one of the largest child sacrifice rituals ever recorded in human history. Archaeologists and historians believe these children were forced to participate in the Chimu Empire's religious ceremonies intended to prevent natural disasters linked to a phenomenon called El Niño, which the religious leaders of the society believed could bring salvation to the community. The Chimu Empire, which existed long before the Inca civilization, had developed a society with complex beliefs and mysterious religious rituals. The government and religious leaders of the time organized large-scale sacrifices in an attempt to appease the gods, particularly during times when they believed nature was rebelling, causing famine and disasters. This discovery is not the first of its kind in the Pampa La Cruz region, which has previously recorded mass child slaughter events. In June 2018, archaeologists found the remains of 56 children and 140 llamas, also part of similar sacrificial rituals. However, this discovery surpasses the previous ones, containing a terrifying number of victims. 227 children sacrificed at once. Most of the remains were well preserved, with some still showing traces of skin, hair, and even sparkling silver earrings, adding to the eerie and tragic nature of the massacre. This mass grave is not just a trace of one of the most horrifying sacrificial rituals in history, but also a reminder of the brutality that ancient civilizations could commit under the guise of religion and the protection of supernatural forces. Even after 1,400 years, these innocent children continue to stand as witnesses to a dark era, where the death of numerous children was seen as a way to calm the wrath of nature. Looking at these images, what do you think? As for me, I feel both terrified and deeply sorrowful for those innocent children. A mass grave with 1,000 skeletons piled together. In March 2024, a recent archaeological discovery in Nuremberg, southern Germany, shocked both the scientific community and the public when archaeologists uncovered a massive mass grave containing up to 1,000 victims of the plague, one of the deadliest disasters in human history. Excavations, carried out in an area set for construction, revealed 8 large pits, each containing hundreds of skeletons of adults, children, and infants, dating from the late 15th century to the early 17th century. This is not only a historic discovery, but it also provides deep insights into life and death during Europe's dark period. The plague claimed the lives of millions, and Nuremberg was no exception. The city suffered a series of severe plague outbreaks from 1533 to 1634, during which approximately 30,000 people died from the dreaded disease. In an effort to curb the spread of the plague, the city's authorities ordered the burial of bodies in mass graves outside churchyards, creating vast cemeteries filled with innocent victims. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that archaeologists found not only bones, but also fragments of pottery and clearly dated coins. Specifically, the pottery found in 2 of the 3 excavated pits dates back to the time of the plague outbreaks between 1622 and 1634, while the coins are dated to 1619. This is clear evidence linking the discovered objects with the plague waves that ravaged Nuremberg, offering a realistic view of the hardships faced by the city's residents during this period. Melanie Langbein, a heritage conservation expert in Nuremberg, shared that this discovery is significant not only for the city but for the entire region. Langbein stated, "A discovery like this has never happened before, and no one thought this could occur. This site is of tremendous importance to the city of Nuremberg. This reflects the honoring and remembrance of historical disasters, helping us better understand the development of societies during difficult times." Currently, the excavations are still ongoing, and archaeologists predict the number of victims may exceed 1,500. If confirmed, this would likely be the largest mass grave ever excavated in Europe. A 2,000-year-old tomb, containing 50 skeletons. In the fall of 2021, during the expansion of the Shinoye Cemetery in Krasnoyarsk, archaeologists unexpectedly discovered a monumental tomb dating back 2,000 years, belonging to an unknown Scythian-like culture. The discovery occurred when an excavator leveled a mound in the cemetery area, which had been in use since the 19th century. It was during this process that the 2,000-year-old tomb was uncovered. However, the excavation caused damage to the top of the tomb, leading to the loss of several artifacts. Despite this, the excavation team, led by Dr. Dmitry Vinogradov from Siberian Federal University, continued their work last summer, gathering important data from the remaining items. Through tests and analyses, experts confirmed that before being partially destroyed, the tomb had a diameter of up to 98 feet and was lined with wooden walls and birch bark mats, forming a unique box-like tomb structure. Upon excavation, the team discovered a range of valuable artifacts such as knives, mirrors, needles, ceramic vessels used for eating and drinking, along with battle axes and small copper daggers, objects typically buried with the deceased for their journey to the afterlife. Particularly noteworthy was a piece of copper engraved with a deer image, a motif commonly found in Scythian art, indicating the culture's connection to nature and beliefs. Dr. Vinogradov stated that with around 50 skeletons found in the tomb, it is likely a family tomb used by multiple generations for joint burials. The unusual color of the soil in the mound suggests that the site was exposed to high temperatures, leading archaeologists to hypothesize that once the tomb was filled with remains and no space was left, it was sealed and cremated as part of a ritual to close the tomb's use cycle in the Scythian culture of Siberia at that time. 28. Skeletons in a mass grave in Sudan. Recently, a shocking discovery was announced in Sudan when the bodies of dozens of military officers involved in the 1990 coup against former President Omar al-Bashir were found in a mass grave. This is the second mass grave discovered in the 3 decades since Bashir came to power in 1989. This discovery is not only an archaeological investigation, but also a significant step toward uncovering the crimes committed by Bashir's regime throughout his rule. The event took place in the city of Omdurman as part of an investigation into misconduct and human rights violations under Bashir's leadership. According to prosecutor Teglsir al-Hiber, the remains were found during an excavation, following 3 weeks of strenuous search by 22 experts from various fields. They uncovered at least 28 bodies, and initial signs suggest these were military officers who were captured and killed during the coup attempt in April 1990, aimed at overthrowing Bashir and his allies. This mass grave recalls a dark chapter in Sudan's history, when power and human lives were treated with disregard. Bashir's regime, with its brutal and autocratic actions, caused immense suffering and loss for thousands of Sudanese people. Not only were the coup officers killed, but millions of civilians also became victims in the wars and genocide in Darfur. The Sudanese government at the time reported that 55 soldiers drowned when their boat capsized while crossing a river. However, opposition groups have accused Bashir of deliberately murdering these soldiers to prevent an uprising, and in reality, the number of those killed may have exceeded 100. A mass grave, containing about 80 skeletons in Peru. At the archaeological site of Pachacamac, near Lima, Peru, a recent archaeological discovery has opened new doors to understanding the ancient Ixma civilization. Specifically, a team of archaeologists from the Free University of Brussels, Belgium, discovered the largest mass grave at this site, containing about 80 well-preserved and carefully embalmed skeletons. The cloth surrounding the bones suggests that this was a special ritual, reflecting the Ixma people's views on death and the journey to the afterlife. Notably, 2 of the skeletons were found in a fetal position, a burial practice characteristic of the Ixma civilization, which existed in South America thousands of years ago. These skeletons are positioned in a way that could symbolize rebirth, an important belief in this ancient culture. Although no written records were left behind, through the artifacts and traces found in the grave, archaeologists have gathered valuable information that sheds light on many aspects of Ixma culture. The skeletons found in the grave are mostly those of pilgrims, who may have died from illness. However, some child skeletons were also found, leading archaeologists to speculate that these children may have been sacrificed to pray for the well-being of the community or the deities. This is a rather heartbreaking reality, but reflects the deep religious beliefs of the Ixma people toward the divine world and the sacred rituals they performed. Additionally, during the excavation, archaeologists discovered several special artifacts, such as a wooden head and clay masks, believed to be symbolic items that helped the deceased pass through the heavenly gates and reach paradise. While the Ixma did not leave written records, these artworks give us insight into their spiritual beliefs and worldview, where death was not seen as an end, but a transition into another world. Pachacamac was not only an important archaeological site, but also the religious center of the Ixma people for nearly 2 millennia. The city housed large temples and was a central hub for worshiping deities throughout the region. These new findings, although surprising, serve as evidence of a highly influential and far-reaching civilization, with beliefs and customs that remain largely unexplained to this day. The 60 mummies in 2 6-meter-deep ancient tombs. Recently, Spanish researchers announced an impressive archaeological discovery related to 2 tombs containing around 60 mummies located in the city of Luxor, Egypt. These tombs were built within the burial complex of Amenhotep Hui, the vizier during the reign of Pharaoh Amenhotep III, around 1390 to 1352 BCE, from Egypt's 18th dynasty. This is one of the most important discoveries of the past year, offering deep insights into a sacred cemetery constructed around one of the most powerful figures of ancient Egypt. According to Francisco J. Martin, director of the Madrid Institute for the Study of Ancient Egypt and the leader of the excavation project, the 2 tombs are about 20 feet deep and are directly connected to the main tomb of Amenhotep Hui. Notably, archaeologists discovered several mummies in relatively well-preserved conditions, shedding light on important burial practices in ancient Egypt. Anthropologists have assessed that these mummies belong to about 60 individuals, mostly people of high social rank. This indicates that this burial site was not only the resting place of Vizier Amenhotep Hui, but also a cemetery for those closely associated with him, particularly senior priests from the Karnak temple dedicated to the god Amun. A noteworthy feature is the architectural differences between these 2 tombs and the main tomb. The 2 tombs lack the inscriptions seen in Amenhotep Hui's tomb, which may reflect distinctions in burial practices between different social classes. Like many graves of lower social classes, these tombs lack elaborate decorative details. This is a clear indication that, although these individuals were of high status in society, not everyone was afforded the same honors and respect as the vizier. Over the past 15 years of excavation, the Amenhotep Hui project has uncovered more than 200 complete mummies, along with valuable artifacts. One of the notable items is exquisitely decorated coffins, featuring images of the god Amun, one of the most important deities in ancient Egyptian belief. These artifacts are now displayed at the Luxor Museum, attracting the attention of visitors and researchers alike. If you have the opportunity, you may want to visit to witness these findings in person. Mass grave containing 500 women and children. A chilling archaeological discovery has recently been made at one of the notorious Nazi concentration camps, Gulag 191, located in the southwest of Russia near the Ukrainian border. Here, archaeologists uncovered a mass grave containing the remains of over 500 women and children, all victims of one of the bloodiest chapters of World War II. Gulag 191 was a concentration camp built to imprison ethnic groups deemed enemies by the Nazis, and it witnessed the deaths of approximately 8,500 people. A large portion of these victims were women and children, vulnerable individuals who could not escape the brutality of war. According to Captain Mikhail Segadin, head of the excavation, the bones found primarily belonged to the younger victims, many of whom had gunshot wounds and broken bones. Sadly, no valuable items were found, except for a damaged cigarette box, proving that these were innocent people who were abandoned and forgotten. These remains were found just beneath the surface in mass burial pits, where the victims had been hastily buried with little respect. Viktor Strelkin, a local historian, shared that these pits lay just beneath the feet of the living, sometimes exposing the remains or partially covering them with earth. But over time, the bones began to reappear as a testament to the unforgivable cruelty. This event is not only a significant archaeological discovery, but also a stark reminder of the suffering caused by war and the brutality that humans can inflict upon each other. The remains found serve as a vivid testament to a bloody past and as a reminder of the value of peace and the necessity to protect human rights to ensure that such atrocities are never repeated in history. Mass grave of 800 human remains at an elevation of 16,499 feet. Rupkund Lake, now known as Skeleton Lake, is a glacial lake in the state of Uttarakhand, India, hidden within the Trishul mountain range and containing the secret of a mass grave with hundreds of human skeletons lying beneath its waters. The lake is located at the bottom of a small valley in the Himalayas at an elevation of approximately 16,499 feet. The lake is very shallow, with a maximum depth of about 6.5 feet. For most of the year, the lake is covered by a blanket of snow and ice from the surrounding glaciers. However, every May, when the ice melts and the lake's water level recedes, the true nature of the site is revealed. This location, known for its picturesque, majestic scenery, is a popular destination for adventurous tourists who are eager to explore and curious to see the mass grave. In 1942, when forest rangers from northern India reached Rupkund Lake during the melting season, they stumbled upon over 200 human skeletons at one corner of the lakebed. Most of these skeletons were well preserved. Further investigation revealed that there were over 800 skeletons of varying sizes within Rupkund Lake. These skeletons are ancient. The flesh, hair, and bones were preserved in the dry, cold air, so they remained mostly intact, but no one has been able to determine where they came from or how long they have been there. Nor has anyone been able to explain what caused more than 800 people to die at this remote location. Many theories have been proposed, including disease, landslides, or even a mass suicide ritual. Despite decades of research, the mysteries of Skeleton Lake remain unresolved. According to local people living at the base of the Himalayas, there are many mystical legends surrounding this giant skeleton lake. One such legend tells of an ancient king from Kanaji, who, with his queen, children, and attendants, went up the Himalayas to hold a grand feast. The king's lavish celebration offended the goddess Nanda Devi, as the summit of the Himalayas is sacred and not meant for indulgence. In her anger at the king's sacrilege, the goddess is said to have summoned a massive hailstorm that struck down the king's party. Another theory suggests that these are the remains of Japanese soldiers who died while attempting to escape to India during wartime. The British government quickly formed a group of investigators to determine the truth behind the skeletons. However, after investigating, they concluded that these remains were not those of Japanese soldiers, as they predate the war by centuries. Many scholars and British investigators believe the skeletons belong to General Zorawar Singh of Kashmir in the Indian subcontinent and his troops. General Zorawar Singh's army is thought to have gotten lost and perished in the Himalayas while returning from the Tibet War of 1841. However, radiocarbon dating of the bones in the 1960s disproved this theory. The mystery of these thousand-year-old human skeletons intrigued scientists, leading them to seek answers. In 2003, scientists from the Department of Archaeology at Deccan College, India, collaborated with German researchers and the National Geographic Channel to conduct filming and research at Skeleton Lake. In 2007, using modern technology, scientists reached a conclusion, and the mysteries of Skeleton Lake began to unfold. Upon examining the skeletons closely, scientists discovered several glass bracelets, rings, leather shoes, and bamboo staffs, but no military weapons. Furthermore, when examining the bodies at the site, researchers found deep cracks at the tops of the skulls. These fatal wounds were not caused by landslides or snow avalanches, but rather by blunt objects, possibly something spherical like a hailstone. These wounds were located on the victims' heads. DNA testing revealed that all the victims died from fatal blows to the back of their heads, likely caused by large hailstones. The researchers hypothesized that a massive hailstorm, with speeds possibly exceeding 100 mph, struck suddenly, leaving the people with no time to seek shelter, resulting in their deaths. Some of the victims survived initially, but later succumbed to hunger and cold. The bones, preserved by the snow and ice at the lakebed, have remained intact for over 1,000 years. Today, this is considered the most reasonable explanation. But the question remains, who were these 800 individuals, and why did they venture into such a perilous area only to meet their end in a violent hailstorm. In a study of 31 skeletons, scientists found that the skulls of these individuals had small bony protrusions on their foreheads. These characteristics are unique to people from the Maharashtra region of southern central India. DNA analysis showed that 3 of the 31 skeletons shared an unusual genetic mutation not found anywhere else in the world, except among a specific migrant group from Maharashtra. This suggested that these 3 individuals were from the same family. Moreover, in the 800 skeletons discovered in the lake, scientists found an interesting pattern. The skeletons were divided into 2 groups, one group of smaller stature and another of much taller individuals. These skeletons date back to around 850 CE, 50 CE, over 1,000 years ago. The final conclusion is that the 800 individuals in Rupkund Lake were Indian pilgrims who had traveled to the lake. Dear friends, these mysterious and terrifying mass graves are perhaps not only reminders of the horrors of history, but also some of the most perplexing and frightening phenomena for scientists. Each grave, each skeleton holds untold stories, secrets buried deep in the earth and time. Despite the passing of centuries, their mysterious allure has never faded, continuing to be the subject of study and unanswered questions. And perhaps they will forever serve as proof of humanity's inexplicable mysteries, don't you think? What are your thoughts on this? Feel free to share your ideas in the comments below. For now, goodbye and see you next time.